Recent weeks have seen a surge of protests across China as ordinary citizens reach their breaking point under the weight of government pressure. The situation is becoming increasingly volatile, with demonstrations erupting in major cities and even spreading to smaller towns. The root cause of this unrest is the relentless financial squeeze being placed on the common people by various government policies and practices. From excessive traffic fines to arbitrary fees and taxes, it seems that every aspect of daily life is being monetized at the expense of the average citizen. So let us dive deep into the heart of the rage of common Chinese people. Why are the people so angry? This incident happened in Guangzhou, involving a controversy over a fine issued for an unlicensed shared electric bike. A man was riding a shared electric bike and was stopped by the traffic police for violating the law because the bike had no license plate and he was fined. The man felt very aggrieved, saying, "The electric bike isn't mine. Why should I get it licensed? I'm just a consumer who paid to use a shared electric bike. Isn't it the responsibility of the company providing these bikes to ensure they are licensed?" Efforts to address the chaos of electric bikes, involving tens of thousands of people, seem to fall into a trap of addressing symptoms rather than the root cause. Manufacturers of unlicensed electric bikes and companies providing unlicensed shared bikes should be the ones held accountable, yet they seem to evade punishment. In contrast, innocent riders who chose this mode of transportation bear the consequences of these unlicensed bikes. The woman, "Hello, are you the traffic police? I'm just a common citizen, but the people have the right to judge the law enforcement. If you go around and give people fines and such, then the people have the right to monitor you too." The police, "Why are you filming us?" The woman, "Why can't I film?" The police, "You can film, yes, but why are you filming us?" The woman, "You need to show your ID. I need to explain to you that according to the traffic safety law of the People's Republic of China, riding a motorcycle without wearing a safety helmet is a violation. I'm recording you now, showing you without a helmet. Everyone, come see. Not wearing a safety helmet while riding a motorcycle is against the traffic safety law of the People's Republic of China." The police, "This is nonsense." The situation in China regarding traffic fines and local government finances has reached a critical point, painting a picture of a system on the brink of collapse. The data and numbers reveal a troubling scenario that affects every aspect of Chinese society, from individual citizens to the highest levels of government. In 2020, the total amount of traffic fines in China hit an astronomical 300 billion yuan, about $43.5 billion USD. This amount is almost equal to or even larger than the entire GDP of many countries such as Serbia, Jordan, and Paraguay, which is 53.36 billion, 43.7 billion and 35.43 billion USD within the same year respectively. To put into perspective, you can build 483 high schools in the US by that amount. Even more alarming is that this averages out to more than 1,000 yuan, about 145 USD per car in China. For many Chinese citizens, this represents a significant portion of their monthly income. Notice that the median monthly disposable income for urban Chinese residents was only around 3,500 yuan, about 507.5 USD in 2020, considering many Chinese citizens need cars for their job. This means that a single traffic fine could wipe out nearly a third of an average urban resident's monthly income. According to recent media reports, at the 43-kilometer mark of the Guangzhou-Foshan-Guangtai Expressway, a junction has become notorious for traffic violations. Some motorists reported that when paying their fines, the platform showed nearly 620,000 people had been penalized. Calculating at 200 yuan per violation, the total fines amount to a staggering 124 million yuan. From video footage shared online, this highway section features a Y-shaped intersection. The white solid line connecting to the fork is relatively short. Many vehicles, when merging into the left lane, easily misjudge the distance and cross the white solid line on the right, resulting in a line crossing violation. An enthusiastic netizen conducted an aerial survey, finding that within just 3 minutes, 27 people committed violations at this section. It's fair to say that when it comes to highway cameras catching violations, there's always a more outrageous case. In response, The Foshan Traffic Police Department stated that the road markings were put into use after passing inspection and approval. However, we must ask, if only a few drivers violate traffic rules at a particular location, it might be the driver's fault. But when large-scale, long-term violations occur at the same spot, shouldn't we consider potential infrastructure defects? The scale of violations is equally shocking. In just one location, the northbound Beijing direction of Jianting Bridge on the Beijing-Xinjiang Expressway, there were 40,790 violations recorded in a single month. That's an average of 1,359 violations every day at just one spot. To grasp the magnitude of this, imagine a medium-sized town where every single resident commits a traffic violation in a single month. If we extrapolate this across the country, the numbers become almost unimaginable. China has over 300 million registered vehicles. If even a small percentage of these were fined at a similar rate, we'd be looking at billions of violations annually. Journalist Bai Yansong shared his view about the problem. Recently, in Foshan, Guangdong, due to unreasonable design of signs and markings at highway entrances, 180,000 drivers were fined for violations within a year. Although the fines were all turned over to the state treasury, the design of the signs and markings is so rigid that it hardly takes into account the human element of driving, making it nearly impossible for drivers to avoid violations. This situation needs to be corrected promptly. Such issues are not limited to highways. Some traffic signs are only visible after a violation has occurred, and some speed limits do not align with normal driving behavior. Fines should be imposed according to the law and regulations, but the primary factor to consider is whether drivers can realistically comply. Otherwise, it's not the drivers who should be penalized. A National People's Congress representative suggested removing electronic surveillance systems aimed primarily at generating fines, gaining support from netizens. Chongqing lawyer Han Diyun believes some fines may be due to the misuse of surveillance, with violations that cause no harm still receiving hefty fines. For example, a camera on the Shanghai Expressway processed 120,594 violation records in 1 year, totaling over 2.5 million yuan, about $362.500 USD in fines. Drivers had to merge 1.5 kilometers before the service area or be fined, leading to nearly everyone being fined. After complaints, this camera was removed. Unscientific setups, like sudden speed limit drops from 120 km/h to 80 or 60 km/h in surveillance devices with powerful flashes causing safety risks, need review. Distinguishing between revenue-focused and safety-focused surveillance is challenging. The key is whether the setups are reasonable, where and how many devices to install, who approves them, and their accuracy testing frequency should follow standards. The use of fines should be transparent, whether for traffic infrastructure or accident relief funds. Surveillance should deter illegal behavior, prioritizing safety over revenue. The fact that in Hebei province, almost all traffic fines issued last year were reportedly based on questionable claims suggests a systemic issue that goes far beyond occasional overreach. This, combined with the revelation that the Transport Bureau of Xi'an County in Hebei faked signatures on over 93% of the traffic tickets it issued, paints a picture of widespread corruption and abuse. It's as if the entire system of traffic enforcement has been turned into a money-making machine, with little regard for actual safety or justice. The reliance on these fines for local government funding is creating a vicious cycle. As local governments struggle with debt and reduce tax revenues, they turn to fines to make up the shortfall. This in turn puts pressure on citizens and businesses, potentially driving them away and further reducing the tax base. This cycle could lead to a collapse of local economies if left unchecked. It's like a desperate farmer eating his seed corn. It might solve an immediate problem, but it destroys any hope for future harvests. Moreover, the use of surveillance cameras for generating fines rather than primarily for public safety represents a concerning shift in priorities. With China already having one of the world's most extensive surveillance networks estimated at over 200 million cameras, this adds another layer of anxiety for citizens who may feel constantly at risk of financial penalties. It's as if every street corner has become a potential tax collector, watching and waiting for the slightest infraction. If this trend continues unchecked, it could lead to widespread social unrest. The combination of financial pressure on citizens, erosion of trust in local governments, and the feeling of constant surveillance could create a powder keg of public discontent. This situation, if not addressed urgently and comprehensively, threatens not just local government finances but the stability of the entire Chinese social and economic system. The impact of these fines extends far beyond individual wallets. They're affecting business operations, consumer spending, and even migration patterns within China. Truck drivers, for instance, report excessive penalties for overweight loads, which increases transportation costs and ultimately raises prices for consumers. Some businesses are reportedly considering relocating to areas with less aggressive fine enforcement, which could lead to economic deserts in overzealous regions. China's traffic fine system also stands in stark contrast to other countries. In the United States, for example, traffic fines typically account for less than 5% of a city's revenue. In China, some local governments are reportedly relying on fines for up to 20% or more of their income. This level of dependence on punitive measures for funding is unprecedented in modern governance. The situation is further exacerbated by China's aging population and slowing economic growth. As the working-age population shrinks and economic expansion slows, the pressure on local governments to find alternative revenue sources is only likely to increase. This could lead to even more aggressive fine enforcement in the future, creating a downward spiral of citizen dissatisfaction and economic stagnation. The central government's efforts to curb these practices, while a step in the right direction, may be too little, too late. The document stipulating that local governments must cease using illegal, irregular, and unnecessary law enforcement monitoring equipment by the end of the year is a positive move. However, given the deep-rooted nature of the problem and the financial pressures facing local governments, there are concerns about how effectively this can be implemented. The establishment of a mechanism for on-site inspection to investigate areas where the revenue from fines is found to be abnormal is another positive step. However, given the widespread nature of the problem, it's like trying to use a bucket to bail out a sinking ship. The sheer scale of the issue may overwhelm any inspection system. Furthermore, the use of traffic fines covers a wide range of aspects, from supporting the operation of traffic police departments to infrastructure construction and traffic accident relief. While these are important areas that need funding, the current system creates perverse incentives. Traffic police departments that rely on fines for their salaries and operational costs are more likely to issue fines aggressively, prioritizing revenue generation over public safety. The investment of fine revenue in transportation infrastructure, while seemingly positive, also raises questions. If a significant portion of infrastructure funding comes from fines, there's a risk that infrastructure projects could be designed to maximize fine potential rather than to optimize traffic flow and safety. The Traffic Accident Relief Fund, while noble in intention, is also problematic when funded primarily through fines. It creates a system where the victims of accidents are essentially being compensated by other drivers who may have committed only minor infractions. The management of these funds, governed by strict principles and regulations, is another area of concern. While China's approach to managing transportation infrastructure funds emphasizes safe, reasonable, and effective use, the reality on the ground often falls short. The fact that transportation authorities and legal entities of transportation construction projects are responsible for reviewing, summarizing, and compiling the annual financial budget and final accounts of transportation construction projects creates potential conflicts of interest. The supervision and management approach, which fully regulates the use of funds, sounds good on paper. However, the widespread reports of abuse suggest that these regulations are often circumvented or ignored. The emphasis on financial information management and ensuring the authenticity and accuracy of content seems at odds with the reports of faked signatures and questionable fines. In terms of fundraising, the focus on ensuring that funds raised comply with national laws and regulations, the compliance of market-based financing means and methods, and whether the project capital reaches the proportion specified by the state, all sound like reasonable measures. However, when local governments are desperate for funds, there's a risk that these guidelines will be followed in letter but not in spirit. The requirement for transportation authorities to strengthen the management of transportation infrastructure investment plans to ensure the consistency of project investment plans with financial budgets is another area where theory and practice may diverge. When budgets are heavily reliant on unpredictable fine revenue, it becomes extremely difficult to make consistent, long-term investment plans. The current situation in China regarding traffic fines and local government finances is unsustainable and potentially catastrophic. The reliance on punitive measures for government funding is eroding public trust, damaging the economy, and creating a surveillance state that prioritizes revenue generation over public safety. If significant changes are not made soon, China risks entering a downward spiral of declining public trust, economic stagnation, and social unrest that could threaten the very foundations of its society and governance system. The numbers tell a story of a country at a crossroads, where the decisions made in the near future will have profound implications for China's long-term stability and prosperity,